Well, like most great American success stories, there are humble roots to it. And this company started in his grandmother's basement and is now an absolute power, not only domestically, but becoming that globally. The company is Under Armour, and the CEO is Kevin Plank. We've been working on this interview for a couple of weeks, folks, maybe a couple of months. He has a huge announcement in about 10 minutes, Kevin.
You bet.
And we'll get to that. Let's start with this. So you go to school, prep school, successful parents, they throw you out. Your grades are average. It says behavioral issues. What was wrong with you as a kid?
Yeah, they don't throw you out for average grades. My grades were like, I mean, I found my high school transcript recently, and I've since had it completely burned and destroyed and figured no kid should ever think they should be able to get away with that type of high school performance.
But you were smart. You're obviously driven. You're aspirational. There's no reason. But I look at you, and I've heard this story from other, I would say, business people or mavericks. Right. Why was the academic side a bit of a struggle?
I don't know. I don't want that to be the storyline. I mean, I was a good kid. I was a smart kid. I just hadn't figured it out. I was focused on, I thought the key to life was I just wanted to play ball. You know, all I wanted to do from the time I was, touch football in first grade to tackle football in fourth grade to 8 years of that to high school 1 and then to high school 2 and having some success and being a self-proclaimed one of the greatest high school football players ever.
Yeah.
Until I was able to go to a prep school, a place called Fort Keene Military Academy.
And it's interesting, the innovation that you created was you were known as a world-class sweater. We all played a guy in high school who sweat too much. In my high school, it was Eric Bell. Nobody wanted to guard him. You were that guy at your high school. You'd work your way through the cotton shirts. And so you said to yourself, it'd be great if I could create my own brand, which would keep me dry. And that's how it starts.
Right.
And then you basically go to the garment district in New York looking for fabric.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm not going to sign up with any kind of gland issues or anything else, but sure, I had my own deal. But I mean, think about what the issue was, is that, as an athlete, you'd wear before Under Armour, there was a short sleeve cotton t-shirt in the summer or a long sleeve cotton t-shirt in the winter. I mean, just think about that. I mean, before remote controls, we used to get up and change the channel. Like, kids wouldn't know that today. But today, you can't imagine a team of 100 football players or soccer players or baseball players or any sport taking a field in the middle of August in soaking wet cotton t-shirts. And that's basically what the reality was, is saying, how come no one ever did anything about it? No one's ever addressed what athletes wore beneath their equipment. Like, that was the insight for Under Armour. And again, when I talk about sort of the friend approach, it was this, at 23, people don't recognize the size of the networks that we have or access to. And you can think, I just know a bunch of other college kids, but the college kids I knew were playing in the NFL from my high school where we won the city championship, and 11 guys played Division I football, and 4 went on to play in the NFL. From the prep school I went to, Fort Keene Military Academy, there were 23 guys on my Fort Keene military team that signed Division I scholarships. 13 of them wound up getting drafted to the NFL. 4 of them were first-round draft picks, and 1 guy won the Heisman Trophy, and a guy named Eddie George.
So that's your gateway a little bit.
And then 25 guys from any given time from Maryland that are playing in the NFL. So I'm going, at 23, I know 50 to 60 guys that have this window of 3 to 4 years of playing at the highest level. And what's something, instead of just calling them and borrowing money, but saying, maybe I could access them and say, let me send you 3 T-shirts. Try one, and if you like it, wear it. And if you really like it, give one each guy in the locker next to you. And if you want more, tell your equipment guy and tell him to call me, and he's got to pay for them. So this is before sports rights. This is 1996. Access in the locker rooms today would not happen because all these rights are locked up, which is part of today's announcement is all about, of locking up amazing rights and building something special.
Kevin Plank, Under Armour CEO. So it becomes that. Your first big break is at Jeff George, the strong-armed, enigmatic quarterback. Was he one of your first stars who wore your stuff?
I mean, we had a lot of fans. So again, like I mentioned, the guys that helped me. I remember my first negotiating with Barry Bonds, which was I think a $5,000 contract that was going to be paid in goods to his foundation. At which time he pointed at his manager and said, "If I ever find out you pay anybody more money than you pay me," he said, "I'm going to kill Stevie." Stevie was his agent next to him. And I said, "Nobody wants Stevie to die." I said, "Well, I'll make sure we live up to that, Barry."
Okay.
So
now you talk about, now the company's grown, obviously. And I grew up in Seattle where Starbucks starts in 1971, but nobody drank it until 1991.
Right.
So you're about 8, 7, 8, 9. Give me the timeline. You're a 20-year-old company. It starts clicking.
I think there's so many of those make it or break it moments. A big one for us was probably the end of 1999. We were on our way to finishing about a $1.3 million year. And there was this movie coming out that we'd gotten access to. A friend of mine, a guy named Jim Druckenmiller, first-round draft pick for the 49ers.
Yes.
He was playing the Redskins, and I actually was in Grandma's house in Georgetown, or was in Baltimore at that point, and went over to see him and met a guy named George Del Rico, who was actually trying out for a new Oliver Stone movie called Any Given Sunday.
Any Given Sunday.
And I found out about it, sent some product down to the production office, didn't get a call on, the day later. 2 days later, I get a call from LA and says, hi, this is Mary Zofries from Oliver Stone's office, and I'm the lead costume designer. He was looking for something like this for his movie. Would you like to outfit the movie?
Wow.
And
wow. What
I remember from that one moment where, and we got this placement. I remember them saying, great, Oliver has looked at the product. He likes it. We want to put it in the movie. And the great news, just send us this, and this. And I remember that first very awkward conversation with saying, I'm happy to send them to you. Where do you want me to send the invoice? And their reaction was, no, this is Hollywood, this is product placement. And I said, no, where do you want me to send the invoice? So part of the early things, which is really very Under Armour, is that, we have good people paying good money for a good product. Everybody pays for it.
Well, Kevin Plank, Under Armour CEO, will have a major announcement here in about 5 minutes. Steph Curry, Cam Newton, Bryce Harper, my buddy Hunter Mahan, Jordan Spieth, Lindsey Vonn, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. If I go back to your roots Any Given Sunday, Jeff George, the XFL, the ad, you're a gutsy company. You have an underdog mentality even now as you're becoming a leader. You're taking on the Titans. Could I argue that the athletes you choose are largely, they're connected to your DNA? Is that you were a go-getter, you were a risk taker, you had an opinion. The athletes you choose are an extension of you.
I think, boy, I'd love that compliment. But I think what they are is that we look for athletes, you're right, that are like us. Frankly, we look for athletes that are better people than they are athletes. We're very proud to sit here and say the 4 major U.S. sports reigning MVPs, with Cam Newton in football, Carey Price in the NHL, Steph Curry obviously in basketball.
Yeah.
We've got Bryce Harper in Major League Baseball.
Unbelievable talent.
Plus the PGA Player of the Year last year. It's the first time that any singular brand has had all 5 of those athletes under one umbrella. So when you look at the 2 most transformational athletes, I think, of the last 50 years, probably the 2 names that come to my mind after Muhammad Ali is Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan. And you're just saying, if you're going to start a sports brand today and you had to pick any 2 athletes, I don't know if anybody could choose anyone different than Stephen Curry and Jordan Spieth, for instance. But we've got, what's amazing is the athletes we didn't mention. It's the greatest Olympian of all time in Michael Phelps. It's Lindsey Vonn. It's Misty Copeland, the first African-American prima ballerina at the American Ballet Theater. So, I think we've done a great job of really utilizing our athletes to articulate our story, which is so much of an underdog story, and that's what you see and feel from them.
Kevin, we talk about this on the show. You're almost like baseball scouts, because you got to find them sometimes before everybody else. You got to go to the AAU tournament.
Yeah.
You just can't say, hey, I'm watching TV.
Yeah.
There's a good shooting guard.
Yeah.
How do you scout the next great, because you could get into esports and skateboarding, and where do you find them?
Yeah, honestly, Colin, it's pure genius. Let's just be clear. I mean, how else can you come up with every rating? I don't know. We play a lot of dice and we like to gamble a little bit, and sometimes fortune weighs on you. And so, I think we do things the right way. I think we give our best in everything we have. I think the athletes are really the ones that have chosen us. But, look, the example I used recently in a talk I was lucky to give at my alma mater, the University of Maryland. I talk about, 3 or 4 years ago, 3 athletes no one had ever heard of. Is that, Jordan Spieth was coming off his freshman year at the University of Texas. Stephen Curry was coming off of, a tough year with, he sat out from injury with his ankles.
Yeah.
And Misty Copeland, no one had ever heard of before. And I think that, seeing sort of the limelight that they've been placed in lately is something we're really proud of. And we've been dragging each other. We really do. We pull each other like any good team. And so I think they're incredibly proud. And Stephen will, no matter what, will always see himself as an underdog. And so will Jordan, and so will Misty. And we'll continue to embrace that as well. And that we got a lot of road. We can do anything we want, but we can't do everything. So I think we've gotten to a size and a scale. We can sign any athlete we want, but we can't sign them all. So we got to be thoughtful. We got to be selective. We got to be creative. And that needs to come across, I think, and the athletes have to produce, and we've been very fortunate with that.
Nike's a rival, Adidas. You're going toe-to-toe. It's ugly. I've known people, having lived in Portland, behind the scenes.
Right.
There is animosity. There is so much global impact and finance at stake. Are there times you go to bed angry, mad at your competitors? Is it friendly rivalry, or is the industry too big to be a friendly rival?
Yeah, there's no such thing as a friendly rivalry. I mean, frenemies, I don't get it. I mean, and I hear you on what that means. And it's not, look, it's respect. I mean, we've got great respect for our competitors, and they have great resources. And they can do a lot of things with them. And they do a lot of things to cause us trauma. And frankly, they do the kind of things that I'd do if I was the big company and there was a little company like me.
They want you to go away.
It's obvious. And we spend a portion of our time thinking, if we were the big company, what would they do to come at us? And then in our own way, it's deciding and saying, how are we vulnerable then? And what are the things that we should do and that we should strengthen? We should utilize to our own strength and our own advantage. And so I think we do a good job of playing this chess game, because it's certainly not checkers. It is definitely chess.
Yes.
And when you look at, some of the things that we've done strategically lately, like we've had some good moves, but look, we're going to have some wins and we're going to have some losses. But the brand. The one thing I'm probably most proud of after 20 years is, it's the deals that we've done. I'm as proud as the deals that we haven't done. And what you see is that, the brand is incredibly strong. The ability for us to, be out here in certain platforms and some of the things we're going to talk about, of introducing our brand to, totally new demographics of people, totally new people that maybe thought they might have known or understood us, but really introducing ourselves and really giving that first handshake and working our way up to a hug.
Let's go to the announcement. 15 years. I'm going to read it right here. 15 years, UCLA. This now is the most lucrative deal and the biggest deal in the history of collegiate sports.
Oh.
$280 million.
Yeah.
Why UCLA?
It's a massive deal for us on so many fronts. And, I remember it was, just 3 or 4 years ago, I stood at the podium in South Bend with Jack Swarbrick, the athletic director from Notre Dame, and announced at the time the largest deal at that time. And since then, you've seen deal after deal begin to eclipse themselves, where, the schools that are really these primary anchors. Geographically, it was incredibly important for us to take advantage of the 5th or the 7th largest economy in the world and say, what are we doing with California? And how do we really attack it? And what are the things that we can do to really introduce ourselves? And that, we've got a great representation with high school sports, with team sports and things, and particularly what was happening up in the Bay Area. When you look at Buster Posey with the Giants, one of our athletes, and you look at, we acquired a company called MyFitnessPal in our connected fitness, and now have a really strong, massive office led by a brilliant guy named Mike Lee in our office in San Francisco, the founder of MyFitnessPal, running Under Armour Record, Under Armour Connected Fitness. And then, of course, we had Stephen Curry. And so doubling down on these assets and really having the opportunity to say, as we play the chess game globally, we understand that, are we passing on an EPL club? Like, where are we going to deploy our resources? Time, people, and money. As I said earlier, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. So the thoughtfulness that we put into where's the best place for us to deploy our money, and saying, are we going to go sign 3 or 4 other smaller schools, or are we going to go get the one that matters? And that's, I think, what the UCLA community can really going to be able to feel from us, is our introduction of our understanding and our compassion and our respect for the history that's been built, and really looking and saying, how can we push it forward? So hats off to Dan Guerrero and the entire athletic administration there, the coaches that we're incredibly excited to be able to outfit, and of course, the student athletes and the alumni that, we're going to be part of the family for a long time, and we're incredibly proud to be Bruins.
Kevin Plank, Under Armour CEO, Steph, Cam, Brady, Romo, Bryce, Kershaw, Spieth, Lindsey Vonn, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, UCLA, among others. And of course, from the grandmother's basement, Maryland, it all started there. Absolute pleasure. You have a press conference to get to.
Only in America. Thanks very much, Colin. It's my privilege to be here. Good luck to the herd.
All right, Kevin Plank.
Thank you.